near my home, you know. And, well, I took one. Yeah, I needed to take more enough courses, so I mean it's kind of interesting. And so I took a course in welding, which I was pretty proficient in anyhow, just to fill in a slot there, you know. And I think I was as savvy as the instructor. I mean, it was kind of interesting, you know, doing something like that you really knew how to do, you know, and I thought that was kind of neat.
Let's see. You mentioned that you were married with 5 children already. Well, let's backtrack just a little bit here. What is your wife's full name?
Oh, Rosie Lena Jacobson. She wouldn't want no one to know that.
Where and how did you meet her?
Well, I met Rose, as a matter of fact, it was a blind date through a Navy friend. After I got out of the Navy, I joined the reserve, and he told me that the girl he was going with had a dear friend that they worked at a jewelry store, and if I'd like to go out with her, because I've always been bashful and shy, and that's how I would more likely get a date. It would be a blind date. So we fixed us up, and we met, and we had our first date. We went to the Moose Club right there, and that's the first time I met Rosie.
What was your courtship like?
Well, we dated for a year, and it was kind of exciting. And matter of fact, I had this old car. I guess it was a 1943 Dodge that I had. You know, when I met her, I just bought a brand new Oldsmobile after I got out of the Navy, a convertible, because I always wanted one that was brand new. Just shortly before I met her, I got this car. And I wrecked it shortly before I met her, and it was demolished. So then I got this 43 Dodge, and so that's what we went out in, either that or the car where I worked. And I had storm windows in it because it got so cold you could see through the floorboards, you could see the snow as you drove along.
How long after you met Rosie was it till you got married?
Like I say, I think we went together for about 1 year, and then well, I don't know who proposed to who, really, you know. I think I said something about a ring, and she said, well, I work at a jewelry store, I get you a good discount on that ring. So it was kind of a joint venture.
Jake, what would you say is the most important thing about choosing a wife?
I think I really, this is a little bit of hindsight, you know, but we did date for a year anyhow, and you don't see that today too much. It's a lot of impulse stuff, and so we did know each other pretty well by going together for a year. We knew our good parts and our bad parts, you know, our bad habits, good habits, and if we could be compatible in marriage, you know, and at that time I had religious feelings, you know. I went to church every Sunday, and Rose was, my wife Rosie, she was Catholic, and she went to church, so basically we were both religious, and you know, that's an important step to when you're going to marry somebody, that you at least have a lot of things in common, you know, and so there won't be too much conflict.
In what ways has marriage turned out to be different than you expected?
Well, I don't know that it really has turned out different, you know, because I see in our family we emulated a lot of things that my mom and dad had us do, you know. I mean, we kind of picked up on that. We had a dog all the time too when our first kids came, and we took vacations all the time, and I know I enjoyed that when I was a child, and I just tried to, I guess, unconsciously pass that on to my children.
Okay, I want to ask you some questions about your career there. What was the first job after you left college there that you mentioned something about meat packing?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, before that, I worked 11 years for a jewel tea company.
Okay.
And I was a deli manager, and which I enjoyed very much. And before that, I worked for my uncle. After I got out of the Navy for probably 4 or 5 years, I was a meat cutter. And I didn't cut meat. I had my naval training really had no value to me, although I was pretty highly skilled in metalsmith and welding, you know. But when I got out of the Navy, I just went to Skokie, Illinois, and worked my uncle in the meat business and learned meat cutting for 4 or 5 years. And then I met Rosie, and I went to work for Jewel, and so I got into the deli department there, and I really enjoyed very much, because we kind of our own bosses, and we were making different things, and then like a friend of ours at church, a job came. He was a trust officer for this meat company, a lady run, and the guy was retiring, and he wanted to know if I'd be interested in taking it, and so I did. It was quite a challenge, you know, and I guess I did pretty good there as long as I stayed there, and so that's was my jobs training.
Your career basically was food catering.
Yep. Uh-huh.
What was the most satisfying thing that you can, when thinking about your career there, what was the most satisfying thing about that?
Well, working for a Jewel Tea Company, which was a very fine employer, had good benefits, which I'm very thankful for, and getting vacations every year where you could go with your family for 2 weeks, and a lot of time when you're self-employed, you just can't take those kind of privileges, but when you're working for somebody, it was, and that's, and I enjoyed my work very much, and
looking back at your career now, is there anything that you would have done differently?
Well, I probably would try to have been a little more frugal with my earnings. Sometimes we have a tendency to live on what we made. I mean, from hand to mouth. And a lot of families do that today, I know. But when we got a little pay raise or something, we just upped our style of living a little more. And I think I would have been wiser to maybe set aside a little bit, you know. And but we were getting along, and I was just content with that.
Jake, when were your children born, and what are their names?
Well, I have a little difficulty with that, but I think I can kind of give you the year. Our first son, John, he was born in 1954, and then my Sherry was our next one, and she was born in 1955, and Lenny, she was our next one. She was born in 1956, and then I think Chucky was the next one. Yeah, he was born in 1958, and Chrissy was our next one. She was born in 1959. And then there was a big gap. We call that Unit 1. Then Unit 2 came along in 1971. Jennifer was born, and I think Danny was born in 1973. We call them Unit 2. And that's when our children were born.
I'd like you to think back to the day your first child was born. What was this experience like for you? I do remember it vividly. It was exciting, of course, and spooky. You know, I mean, it's really a new experience. And one thing, when Rosie went to the hospital with all our children, when we went there, she said, "I'm ready to go." We got there, and I don't ever remember staying in the hospital over an hour, ever, and none of our children. We got there, and bang, you know, all these other fathers, he's been there for 12 hours, and they're sweating, and ours was just like popcorn, you know, they came right along. She was really a sweet lady, was having birth, you know, and they were all born healthy. I mean, we always did the same thing. I would count the toes, you know, and see if everything was there, and
What are some special memories you have of raising your children?
Oh, there's many good ones, you know, with all our children that I remember, and I can't go in detail with everyone, you know, but it was an excellent time. We had so much fun with them, and I wasn't good with diapers and stuff like that, you know. She always reminds me of that. I had to change a few, you know, because when I was home alone, I was locked into it, and so I did a few. Not many. It was a messy event, you know, and then there was tragedies. I think they've all gone through hurts, you know, that really hurt us too. I remember Chucky fell out of bed and almost bit his tongue off. He slept in the top bunk, and one of our daughters got her heel caught in a bike, and Lindy got hit with a swing, and when he was on a camping excursion, you know, and we had to go about 50 miles to a hospital one night and holding her in our arms, and then our little Chrissy, that was the most heart-wrenching experience in our life with her. When she was 9 years old, she told us that her leg hurt, something, you know, so we took her to the hospital, you know, and doctor, and I remember standing there in the hospital, and the doctor came out, and he looked at me and he said, "We're going to have to amputate her leg." And I was in utter disbelief, you know. Something, a little girl like that, you know, but then, we had to do it. There's some kind of cancer that came to her, but just no control over it, and so we went through that. I don't even remember when. I can't think of it now, you know. But we had to take her to Children's Memorial Hospital in Chicago, and they amputated her leg at the hip, and they gave her 6 months to live. And we just took her back that day, and I took her to Sunday school. The next day I had to carry her because she was in a big cast, you know, and but she survived a year after that, and then like a year later it spread to her lungs, and they had to remove a lung, and the same doctor, they said the same thing, you know. It's just a wild type of cancer, you know, that just spreading in 6 months, and you know, we just tried to make everything as nice for her. I remember I used to paint her crutches all different colors and put decals on. She had the prettiest crutches there were, you know, and our whole church was praying for us, and all over the country. They had a benefit for her at University of Illinois, Illinois State in Bloomington, where they raised money for her. The students, they heard about her, and to buy her an artificial leg. We was at the football game as their guests, and halftime they had her down there, and it was just a day for her, and they bought her first leg, and well, I guess today she's still living and has 8 children, and just a miracle.
What are the best things about children? And, well, you've pretty much gone over some of the most frustrating things, yeah, unless there might be something else. But what are the best things about children?
Well, obviously we enjoyed family. You know, I wish I could have some more now. Because really, to me, that's the highlight of our life, is raising our children. That's when we had all our fun. You know, today it seems like some people don't look at it that way, because it just seemed like they have their children, it's home in a daycare center and off to work, and we never went through our children like that. We just grew up with them and enjoyed raising them, and now we're excited when they're happy with their careers, and there's some heartaches too. You know, we've had a few of them that didn't make it in their marriages, but they're all happy today, and most of them know the Lord as their Savior, and we're praying for the rest. But I actually thought about adopting a child. You know, it's such a joy raising them, you know, we hate to quit.
Now that you're a grandparent, what is that like compared to being a parent?
Well, the stock answer is, you know, you can go home at night and leave them there. You know, I don't really feel that way. I think we have, 16 grandchildren already, and we don't see them, a lot of them are away from us, you know. We have some living around here, but I couldn't even name them all. I guess if I practiced, I could, because there's more coming. We have a couple children not even married yet, and but we do go see them in the summer. We take vacations and see them all, and I try to remember their names, and I do enjoy them, you know. And they love us so much, you know, that it's just real neat, you know, how much they think of you, you know. So, and we have a part in their life, spiritually trying to make sure that our children are reminded of the heritage they had, and hope they continue it.
You mentioned that you like to travel back in the Navy. Have you done any traveling since you left the Navy, and where are some of the places you've been?
Yes, I do love to travel, and I still do. It's harder now because I fall asleep when I drive. That's why I got to be careful, you know, but I still love it, you know, and that's why I let Rose drive a lot. But anyhow, right from our very first baby, John, when he was a baby, you know, he went camping with us. Every year we went for 2 weeks camping. We went out west, Yellowstone, and glacier parks in South Dakota. We went to the East Coast to the Cape Hatteras, and we traveled all over the United States. Have not been in Washington and Oregon, the only 2 states I haven't been in. My son lives there now, and I hope to go up there someday. And but we always had a vacation, and it was always camping. It was just a beautiful time to be with the children. And we used to have to set 2 campsites because we had so many children. There were 9 of us, and sometimes we took cousins with us and pulled a trailer, and the whole car was packed. We had a crew cab with back seats in it for a long time with a camper on. We filled the camper up with kids, and the rest of them sat in the crew cab. So, and we had an intercom system where we could talk to them. We used to sing together. It was, matter of fact, most of our trips was a musical. We just singing songs, Christian choruses. We just loved it, you know, and it's just exciting time, you know. And then lately, I went to Belize 2 years ago, to Central America. We raised, I think, 14 children besides our own. I mean, including our own. I raised 2 of my brother's children, because he was in the Army, a professional, and he's in the CIA and States. So he's in Jakarta right now. But when he was in Belize, he invited us to come and spend a week with him over there, and we had a real good time there in the jungles, me and my brother, and I hope to go to Jakarta to see him too, you know, and so.
What would you say has been your greatest adventure thus far?
The greatest adventure?
Yeah.
Thus far, it would be hard to. I would say probably the greatest adventure, is excitement, and time in my life that I remember the most of the time I spent in the military, because it was so important, had so much meaning, and even through that experience, I met my wife, and even when I was in the military, I used to go to church on board ship, you know, because my grandma instilled that in me, and it was exciting, although as dangerous as it was, and that was probably the greatest adventure. The greatest one's ahead, though, to spend eternity with my Lord, and so I'm looking forward to that one.
What are your interests and hobbies, and what do you like to do for fun?
Well, besides travel, I love that. You know, I just like to get out and see the country, and I just don't get sick of it. And I see so much beauty, you know, and I'm not really excited about going to Australia or New Zealand or Switzerland. There's so much right here in America. I don't think you could ever see anything more beautiful than we have right in our own country, you know. That's it.
What organizations do you belong to?
I never was much of a joiner of anything other than the church, and I did belong to the Moose Club for about a year, and I was cub master back home for 5 or 6 years. Where I worked with scouting. I enjoyed that a lot, and of course most of the activities are church centered now. And I love to play golf. I didn't mention that. I don't play that much, but I like to play. I can play golf. I like to play tennis, and that's about it.
As of this point in time, has your life turned out the way you imagined it would?
I don't ever remember imagining how I was going to turn out. I never thought about it, and I'm glad the way it's turned out, though. What has happened to me, and I know things could have been probably a lot better, and could have been a lot worse. And I'm just so thankful. I never set goals of what I wanted to be. It just seemed, I just took what came.
What has been your greatest accomplishment thus far?
Well, I don't know if I've had any. I guess I probably have. I had the privilege of raising my family and instilling in them Christian heritage. Even when we were young, our family, since the first one was born, we've had family devotions, and every one of my children, as in Unit 1, had perfect attendance in Sunday school, 10 years, which is, I felt was really great. I mean, they were allowed to miss maybe 2 Sundays a year, for vacation and stuff, and every one of them got a 10-year Bible. And I mean, I'm not boasting, but it's just that we enjoyed going to church. I mean, we had 18 miles to go to church from where we lived. It wasn't that easy either, where we could walk, and we had to get in our car and drive. We was there every Sunday twice, and every Wednesday to clubs and other activities, and our whole life was built in church activity. I played baseball with the guys, and we camped with all our church groups, and to me, our children were steeped in Christian stuff, and I'm sure that's going to return to them if they have wandered away.
What has been your greatest disappointment or frustration?
I guess just what I was speaking about. I know some of I just don't feel that great about their social life that they have. Not that they're bad, but and everybody can't be as diligent as we were either. I mean, everybody has their own personality, and I'm sure they're all going to end up in glory like I do. That's my prayer. And even if they weren't as active as we were in church, but it's frustrating. I want everybody I would like to see them be as excited about it as I was. And if they're not, well, it just frustrates me. And I'm very impatient, but I tolerate it, and I have nothing to do about it except pray about it, and so I'm happy with it.
What is the most important thing in your life right now?
Well, I guess just the frustration I shared with you, that my children and even a lot of people that even aren't my children, that I'm really deeply concerned about their spiritual situation that I've been praying for, and I get frustrated when you talk with somebody about something that's so beautiful as eternal life, and they just don't get excited about it like I do, and I get frustrated, and I know it's tough, and that's my frustration, but I know the Lord's going to work it out, and I just don't have patience even with that stuff. It just bothers me, and I get frustrated with it.
What would you have done differently in your life if you knew what you knew now?
The only thing I can really say about that is I always wish when I joined the Navy, I had been a born-again believer. And because I had so many missed opportunities of all the people I met there to share Christ with. To me, that is my biggest frustration and thing. I would like to have done better if I would have had any control over it, and maybe I did, I don't know. I mean, my grandma was sure faithful, and seeing that we went to Sunday school, and somehow I just didn't see the importance of committing my life when I was that young, but I wish I had now.
What are your goals right now, and what do you hope to accomplish next?
I'm living from day to day. I do have prostate cancer. I've had it since 1983, I think it was, and I guess that could become serious. I'm on a 3 months testing every 3 months to see what it's doing, you know, and I'm not fretting about it one bit, you know. Every now and then something comes up that frightens the doctor, you know, and I got to go back, and but it doesn't frighten me a bit no more, and that amazes me, you know, because some people really fear death, you know, but I have no fear of death. I have bad feelings about it, be separated from my children and my wife, you know, but I fully hope to see them again, you know, because of what I believe.
What do you think will be the major events to happen during the next 10 years?
Wow, I'm frightened to think of what's going to happen if the world continues to go the way it is. You know, I just see so much negative things, you know, and I see a lot of positive things too, you know. It could explode either way. And I see the coming of the Lord very clear now. I mean, events that are taking place in Israel and different things, and I have a hard time contemplating that could happen in my lifetime, you know, but it could, and that would really be exciting to have that happen. Or it could be a very, I'm frightened for my children, my grandchildren too, if they have to go through a period of real frustration with wars or disease like we have now with AIDS and things. It's a dangerous time to grow up with drugs, and I fear for them, and that bothers me. And I know a lot of the stuff I just have no control over it, but I just put it in the Lord's hand, and I let it rest there.
What are the most important things you've learned about life thus far?
Well, of course, the most important thing, I know this conversation sounds spiritually centered, and it is, because I mean, that's the most important thing I've ever found out. And I didn't have it all my life either. I mean, it's something new. I was 36 years old or 35 when I fully recognized I did need the Lord in my life, and nothing can surpass that as far as excitement and understanding of only the fear that I had missed it, or the opportunity came and I didn't grasp it when I did, you know, and but it was a real experience in my life, and I had no control over it, really. I mean, the Holy Spirit grabbed me, and everything I've done has revolved around my Christian life, and I tried to center it there.
What is your philosophy of life?
I don't know if I guess I must have a philosophy, because everybody does, you know. They didn't deny it, you know, but I want everybody to not be like me exactly, but I would hope everybody could have a lot of the joys I have had, and a lot of the joys that lie ahead for me, and I just would be so pleased if that could happen to most people. And my life hadn't been that rich either, because I've had a lot of pitfalls too, you know, but the last 30 years has been pretty wealthy for me spiritually, and God has seen us through it financially. It's all been hand to mouth, basically. I don't think we've ever had any money in the bank, you know, that we could save, you know, and but he just really taken care of us. Just even when we first moved down here, it was a very treacherous. I came down here just on faith completely. Didn't even have a job. I started a business from scratch, and right from the very beginning, he provided. We have a beautiful home, and just things he's been so good to us. And I've fallen short of returning a lot of that to him, and you really can't make up a lot of the things you've done, you know. It's gone.
Could you give us some examples of what you consider to be right and what you consider to be wrong?
Well, I guess telling the truth, that's one thing I've always expressed in my children. I mean, most people know what the truth is, really. I mean, your conscience convicts you continually about it, you know, and I told my share of lies and been convicted of it, and that's why I've always told my kids when we're dealing with them about different problems, you know, at least tell the truth, you know. I said, there might be punishment involved. I'm not going to tell you I'm not going to do nothing about it, but if you tell the truth, we're not going to maim you or kill you or nothing, you know. But once you get in the habit of even shading the truth a little bit, you know, then it really works into a lifestyle. And if you could just learn to tell the truth, I think it's